Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Picking Daisies podcast. Emma, you're sitting here with me. Every time I start recently, I've been going back to like my original podcast name. And I don't know why, because it hasn't been that way for a while. So I was thinking in my head before starting, like, you have to get this right. But
But one job, one
yeah,
job.
got one job. This is my job. But anyway, hello. Welcome back, everyone. I have an amazing guest with me. Someone I'm very excited for, which actually I was just thinking about this, Emma, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second. I have no idea how we even came to follow each other. I don't even know. I don't remember, but I know I love your content, so it doesn't matter at this point. And the rest is history. So first off, introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I am Emma Jasper, The Dilemmas of Emma online. And I have to say, I think I actually started following you a long time ago now that I think about it.
Okay.
And I've always felt weird because I don't personally have kids and have like a family,
Yeah.
but I love watching your content. So I've been like a lurker for a while, I think,
Lurker. Hey,
in
that's
like the
fine.
most least creepy way possible.
That's fine. That's all right. That's all right. I actually have a good solid, I know I have a few girls that follow me that are not moms, but I think they just find it refreshing. But that's the thing with my content is I don't necessarily want it to always be just like mom
Yeah,
stuff. It's
it's
life stuff
life.
it's just a part of my life. It's a huge part of my
Yeah,
life. So
yeah.
yeah. So
I
okay.
love it.
Tell us about you a little bit, what your page is about, what you cover, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Okay, so like I said, I'm Emma Jasper, Dilemmas of Emma online. My account, uh, I think at this point could be themed around main character energy.
Hmm.
Um, it's been a big passion and kind of mission of mine over the last year. Um, I started sharing when my marriage fell apart and I found out I was going through a divorce that really blindsided me. And I started sharing online because I needed a community. I needed people who had gone through it and have proven to me that there was life on the other side. And I didn't have any real world examples of that.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know how to talk to people about that stuff in real life. For some reason, it's easier online. I feel like there's a safety net there for me. And yeah, so I have this beautiful community now online of just badass women, and there's some men in there too, who
Yeah.
are just determined to make themselves the main characters of their own lives.
Yeah.
Um, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and supportive. And
It is. Well,
uh,
I think that's why I've been enjoying because I think I must have, if that's the case, if you followed me first, then I must have followed you back at some point in seeing, I don't know when, but I know I followed you before your divorce, and it's been a year since your divorce happened. I know
mhm.
because you just celebrated the 365, and I
Yeah.
know I followed you, but I remember seeing your content, and I think the part of what I've enjoyed about watching your content is you. And everyone here, obviously, go follow Emma afterwards and go through and see everything, but following you, you see your evolution of it, of literally being at rock bottom in life, like essentially to like you
Mhm.
got blindsided and just smacked down. And it is watching you get up one step at a time and doing things that break you out of your comfort zone and to be
A
the main
million
character of your
percent.
life, which and that's why I wanted to bring you on. Like you said, you're not a mom, but that's it's a story about, resiliency at this point of
Mhm.
being, picking yourself up. And I have plenty of listeners that, how much shit do we get dealt with or dealt
Mm.
in our daily life? And that just
Yeah.
can knock us down and make us feel like awful. And the same story applies. It's just, it might be different
100%.
in a little bit. So I think that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to bring you on tremendously just to talk about that because it's inspirational for me, which I love.
Good. It's funny. It's fun to be able at this point, enough time has passed and I've had enough distance. Like you said, I just celebrated a year since finding out and since it all started, and being able to look back and have kind of a digital scrapbook, I guess,
Yeah.
diary of everything, and to see, because I think in the moment for things like this, it's really hard to see how time is changing and life is changing in the moment. It's
Yeah.
so slow, it's so small. Um, And yeah, like there's my community is wonderful, but it's a ton of people who haven't even been divorced, but have gone through something that has caused them to grieve.
Yeah.
And then that grief has inspired some kind of transformation.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it's an interesting, it's interesting to be able to look back on it and have all of these memories, good and bad,
Yeah. Oh
documented
God.
through
Yeah.
this journey.
I'm sure. Yeah. No, that's been the best part for me watching is like, okay, this is really cool. So obviously, going back to the divorce, you found out that all of this was going on. You don't have to even get in details. You
Hmm.
can share as much as you want. But what was like your first step of like getting your like obviously everyone has that moment being like my life is over. My life
Yeah.
is over. This
Yep.
I don't even know how I'm going to even move past
Hmm.
this. Like so what was your first step? Like what was your first I don't know, awakening to be like okay, I have to keep moving.
I think that when I look back, there are a few big kind of pivotal points. When I found out, and it was infidelity, if anyone's curious, um, I found out and divorce was decided pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Um, but at that point, I wound up losing my job about a month later because I was just depressed, honestly. Like I just couldn't function.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I look back and I like see the moments where I'm like, okay, you gotta just keep going. One of them was saying, okay, I am divorced. Like the first time I said that word, before I was even legally divorced, I was like practicing saying it. And that was something where I was like, okay, you can do this, you can do that. You try one thing and you get a little stronger with it. When I was going back into the workforce as well, I was coming out of depression. I had moved back in with my parents at
Yeah.
34, which is what every 34-year-old wants to do. um, but going back to work after that also, like, because I started doing DoorDash,
Okay.
um, because I needed something to do for a job. I didn't have
Yeah.
health insurance and was trying to make money. And that was another time, like, I just remember having this vivid moment of being like, you can either cave or you can decide that this is not how your story is going to continue on.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, actually, that is probably the thought that I've had since day one is like, I started saying main character energy to myself from day one, and I did not even know what that meant.
Yeah.
But like over time, saying it over and over again and trying to make all decisions out of the main character standpoint in your life after being someone else's supporting role for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, Anytime that I had to, I mean, God, I could go getting a bank account,
Yeah.
getting my own credit card. The first time I got my car service, I like never had anything to do with cars before this.
Yeah.
And I had to, it was so simple and stupid getting an oil change. But the guy was asking me questions and I was like, I am so embarrassed. I don't know any of these answers. And
Yeah.
I feel like I can get swindled right now. But I was really upfront with him and he was like, walk me through every step, every moment like that.
Yeah.
Um, has felt like I'm not giving up. I want to, and like I can't see what's on the other side. And if I close my eyes and imagine the future, it's just dark.
Yeah.
I don't have that hope yet, but like trusting that it has to be out there. Like
Yeah.
the only way out is through. Like you just have to keep going.
Yeah, I'm big into manifesting. I don't know if you're big into manifesting. I just think it's like the best thing ever. I'm reading a book slowly because I fall asleep after like one page, but it's 15 steps to the 15 magic or the magic of manifesting 15 steps to like your best life. I don't even know, but it's so good and one of the best parts in it, and I could grab it and read it, but the guy that's writing it is saying that we forget to focus on our present self and what's going on in our present day and we're always clouded thinking about the future
Hmm.
or we're clouded thinking about the past and both of those I forget what he calls it is your ego. He said that's your ego, so
Hmm.
that's the stuff that's going to come in and your ego is going to say it's doubtful, like you're not
Yep.
going to get through this if you're looking at the
Hmm.
future, or and you're looking at the past, you're going to set yourself up for failure again where you're going to be like constantly looking at the past and be like, well, this happened, so what's to
Yep.
mean it's not going to happen again. And he said like the
Hmm.
best way to like create your life is literally look at it right now. Like, don't look at it what it's going to look like tomorrow. Don't look at what it looked like yesterday. Just right now
Yep.
at this very second, what do you need to do, and keep on doing that. And then eventually you're going to get to where you need to be. And I was like, it's so good. I mean, it's so simple, but sometimes you just need to
Isn't that
read
how
it.
it is though?
Yeah.
I always think that it's like the true valuable things in life are the simple things.
Oh yeah.
Like there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And like I'm saying this like I know this now, but like only after the year of this journey that I've been on. Like
Yeah.
when I think about I focus a ton now on finding like the glimmers in everyday moments because when something like that happens and your whole world just disappears, you can't think about the future.
Yeah.
Because for me at least, everything that I thought was going to be my future was gone.
Yeah.
You know, dreams of having children and my beautiful house we had just bought and all this stuff, that was all gone. Looking at the past, like you say, like that is not going to serve me. That will actually make me crazy.
Yeah.
You know, going
Yeah.
back and replaying things. And so focusing on the little joys that are present all the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, like from day one, like my to-do list of things originally was like get up, brush your teeth, walk the dogs. Thank goodness I have dogs because that kind of gave me like a reason for structure.
Yeah.
You know, take care of the dogs and then do it again tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
it. Like I didn't have the capacity to go any bigger than that.
That's fine. I think that's tiny. I think, well, and that's why, again,
Yeah.
this is why I think this is a conversation for anyone here. It's grief. Like, all of this is grief. So this could be
Mhm.
grief compounded in if you lost someone, if you are divorcing, if you broke up with your best friend, like
Yeah.
that's right up there. So whatever it may be, or I don't know, whatever type of grief is all the same. But I think it's what's that song? You know what song is really good? This because I'm a mom, is Frozen 2. If you haven't watched Frozen 2, go watch
I
Frozen 2.
haven't. Uh-oh, I
Okay,
gotta
go
watch
watch
it.
that. But Anna sings at the end, and this is so cheesy that I even know this, but I just had it on because my daughter's obsessed with it. But Elsa dies. Spoiler, sorry, Elsa dies. She comes back to life. Of course, it's
Good.
Disney.
It's Disney.
But she is devastated, and she sings a song and just about grief. And she said the lyrics are, "It's doing the next best thing." So what am I supposed to do? Is just doing the next, I think it's the next right thing or next best thing. But she just said you just have to keep doing the next, whatever that is, until
Yep.
you get to where you need to be. And it's
That's
so good.
look at Elsa with the value.
I know.
I love it.
And then she comes
so
back
good.
to life. But that's how Disney works, where you
Yeah.
sit there as an adult and you're like, oh, okay. That's, you
It's
know
a
that
good
adults are
message.
sitting and watching you, aren't you?
I think that's exactly it. I think that's like that going back to the whole like main character energy, which is different than main character syndrome. I've had a few people ask me that. Like main character syndrome would be if I thought I was the main character in your life.
Yeah.
And I acted thinking that you should act like I'm the main character. That's not it at all. It's thinking main character energy is thinking that you are the main character of your own life, which of course you are.
Yeah.
But so many of us kind of forget that. And so much of main character energy, for me at least, has been what is the next, what in this moment, I have to make a decision. What decision does the main character make?
Yeah.
Like it could like for a lot, this is small and little. For a long time it was like a main character eats breakfast.
Yeah.
Main character has to eat to continue going on.
Yeah.
And because for a long time like that, I just stopped, I was depressed. I just stopped eating. I just, and
that.
little things, where you're like, how it's so good for anyone. I think anyone, but especially if you were like a people pleaser growing up and you really like to accommodate other people and make sure that they're taken care of. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my life.
It's hard to remember that, like, also the end of the day, like, no one can do this for you except for you.
Yeah.
And that sucks, but also that's freeing.
It is
once
freeing.
It becomes empowering. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, and that's, I mean, I was that way all the time. I remember even as a kid, I was always a people pleaser, but I was always just scared. I had everyone do it for me because I was just, my confidence was low. So when your confidence is low, you kind of just sit back a little bit and you kind of let everyone step forward. And I remember being in high school, like my first step for trying to do that was went out of state for college, which my parents were like, what the hell? Like, you're going to come home. They were like betting on me coming home, and I didn't. And then 2 years later, I said, I'm studying abroad. And they're like, oh, okay. I didn't know anyone. I just went by myself. And it was like the best experience.
It's so main character.
Like, I know, but it's like little things of doing
Yep.
that where I just I still obviously struggle. Everyone struggles with like self-confidence and stuff like that, but I've always, I'm doing I mean, I graduated college. I went on Match.com because I was like, I want to meet someone. I'm not in the mood
Yeah.
to like wait any longer. We're just gonna
Yep.
make this
Mhm.
happen. And I met my husband, and then we got married. and then and then all of like but then I quit job. Like I didn't like my job
Yep.
and I was like, I'm gonna get a new one. And it just worked out. And
Yeah.
my parents were
Yeah.
like, how do you do that? I was like, I don't know. It's like I just
Isn't that
decide.
thing online right now like Delulu? Like,
Yeah, I
I'm
am
just
Delulu. I think you have
just
to
sure.
be.
And it works out
I
generally, I
know. Well,
think. But
one of my
like
jobs after I graduated college and I went into pharmaceutical marketing, and that was right as I met my husband. And so
Mhm.
we're dating, and then I hated it, and we got engaged, and I said I'm quitting. And I went to a startup company, and I ended up leaving after a month
Yep.
because it was not a real startup, it was a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
then I just announced randomly with no prior history that I'm going to refinish and repaint furniture for sale. And my grandpa was alive at the time, and he was like, "How'd you learn all this?" I was like,
Figuring it out.
figuring it out
You
as you
figure it
and
out.
I was like, "Oh, figure it out," and it worked fine. And then I went to personal
Yeah.
training, and then I went to being a mom, and now I'm here. So I'm like, I don't I don't know.
And look how like capable and resilient you are. Like every time we do one of those things where we're like convinced that we can't do something because we just have never done it, and then you do it and all of a sudden you have this confidence in you because
Yeah.
you've expanded your capacity.
Yeah.
Or maybe your capacity was already expanded and you just realized that it was expanded, but like you flew recently,
Yeah.
right? And that was
Mhm.
so scary for you, but you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. That's why. I mean, I've been watching you. It's main character energy. We're keeping it going. We're
That's
keeping
it.
it
I
going.
love it.
No, but it honestly is. So everyone listening, you're main character of your life starting today. You've
Mhm.
always been, but starting today, you have to remember that. And what would you say? Okay, so for anyone listening right now that's kind of like they're driving in a car and they're like, I need this in my life. Where to begin? What should they do?
Um, I think that number one, we are faced with a huge amount of decisions that we have to make every day as a human being. And
Mhm.
once you start examining every decision and saying, what's the main character choice? What's my past self choice? And by the way, main character choices can sometimes be like, I'm gonna stay in tonight and eat chips on the couch because that's what my soul needs. Like that feels like how I want to live my life, as long
Yeah.
as you're doing it aligned with what you really want.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that examining how many choices you make in a day where you are just doing the default, like making the default choice because it's what you've always done, or because you think it's what people expect of you, or you're trying to make someone else happy,
Yeah.
really examining every little decision that you make and make sure that sometimes you don't even have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, like, is this a main character choice? Because if not, you don't have to change anything then, but it's good awareness. We're on autopilot so much in life. It's so busy.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that that is a good thing. And then so I moved back in with my parents, post divorce. And at that point, I was going through a ton of memory boxes that I had. And I found this list from, I think it was third grade. I think I was 8.
Yeah.
And I had written this list of, it was like 15 things I want to do this summer. Like, I don't know, it was like have a sleepover or ride your bike or go to the library.
Mhm.
One was get a pet. Like, I had the power to make that choice at 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I looked at this list and I was like, dang, at 8 years old, like, one, obviously the stakes are lower, but two, I was making decisions because they were just what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like the time that it took for me to look at that list and then examine what I was doing in my life, like I could be doing so many things, little things that would bring me joy. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna go have slumber parties, but I can have intentional get-togethers with friends.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that just feels like too much work or you
Yeah.
forget about it. And granted, again, like I'm saying all of this with the lens that I don't have kids, because I know if I had kids, the divorce would be 1,000,000,000% harder. And also, your life is dictated more by
Yeah, but I
what
think
they
sometimes
need.
at the end of the day, I'm going to be fully honest, as a mom, sometimes our kids are a safety net for avoiding those things. So sometimes, like, I
Yeah.
know for myself, sometimes it's a very nice thing to have because you ha we kind of sit back, and I know for me, like, I use it as an excuse sometimes, and when you get in such a rut of doing that, then you're like, "Oh, I don't know how to break out of this
Yeah.
and do that again." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
good again, all of this is good reminders as to, like,
Yeah.
why I think the biggest thing with main character energy based off of what you're saying is ask yourself why. Like, why are
Mhm.
you doing these things? Like, I know for me, if I could think of another main character, is I got my nose pierced this summer, where I was like, I had
Yes.
wanted that my entire life as a kid. I had always wanted that. And I was like,
Yep.
why didn't I? And it was because my parents always hated it. And I was like,
Yeah.
so I did it, and
And then you
guess what? They don't care.
doesn't isn't it fun? Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
they don't care.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like you get to I did the same thing with I got my belly button pierced this
Yeah, there you
summer,
go.
because I was like, wanted to I wanted to. And then I was like, wait, I don't have to ask permission.
Yeah.
Like, why am I always waiting for someone to tell me it's okay to do things? Like, you know, I think that also coming out of the marriage that I was in my relationship, I had just really bought into, okay, we're today this year's the house, and by the end of this year we had like gone to a doctor for IVF. Like we were like
Yeah.
really gonna start planning and having babies and having, and when that's all gone,
Yeah.
you really have to ask yourself, like, what makes me happy?
Yeah.
Because all these external things that I was relying on to give me a quote unquote good life, happy life,
Yeah.
um, one, they weren't real because they hadn't happened yet. I was living in the future. And two, like, they can be taken away from you. But
Yeah.
the little things, the glimmers, those are always there. So I guess that would be my last piece of advice is when the world feels too hard and too heavy and there is no big joy, right? Like that you can't see the big stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
not happening for me. But you're always going to have the first sip of a hot cup of coffee in the morning. You're
Yeah.
always going to have the noise of birds chirping outside and my dog's cute, dumb little nose that's so cute and squishy. Like these things that are so little that we overlook because they don't fit into the grand narrative, like the grandiose vision of joy and what we think life should be. When it's all gone, you really focus in on like the little things that make you happy, and once you start seeing them, they're everywhere. I
Yeah.
think we just forget.
Oh,
Because kids
absolutely.
see them all the time, right? Like
Could see
kids
them all
are
the time.
always noticing little things.
I had a guest on when I first started the podcast, and she's on TikTok and stuff like that, but she is like in her 50s, and she talks more
Mhm.
for like women and going through hormonal changes and stuff like that. But she spoke, and it was about motherhood and kind of finding yourself after your kids grow up and leave. And she was saying that she spoke at a seminar and she posed a question to the crowd of mostly moms. And she said, when was the last time that you felt true joy and you're not allowed to name another person?
Mm,
And it was such a hard answer. And I love asking people that because I even struggle with that. And she had said
yep.
that someone had come up to her at the end of it, and it was like a lady in her 70s. And she said, I'm struggling to figure out. And she said, think about it. Like, think about the last time that you remember feeling overjoyed and like and confident in what you're doing and having. And this lady was like debate team in high school. So she was like, okay, let's think about this. And she ended up hearing back from this lady later on, who after that went out and pursued like being a part of the town, like municipality or whatever it was, like that she could participate. And
Yes.
now she has that again. So like that, you saying that stuff, it's so important. And I just had a
Yeah.
podcast prior to this that I was just talking about what happens when you're done having kids type of thing. Because there's a grief
Mhm.
that happens with that.
Yeah.
And people always like to say, and for people that don't have kids, is like, what do you want your table to look like? What do you want like your future
Mm,
table to look like? And I like it. It's a pretty picture. But my biggest question that I said in the podcast is, how do you want your table to feel?
yeah.
And what do you want
Mhm.
to feel like when everyone who's sitting at that table gets up and goes? Because it's only just you.
Ooh.
Because it's only
Dang,
just
that's
you at
good.
the end of the day. Like,
Yes.
so if your family and your kids that are you loved and you work so hard for were your meat and they get up and go and you're empty and
Yeah.
you have nothing, like that's not good.
It's
So if they
not.
get up and
It's
go
not.
and you have something else outside of that, that is like the best thing ever. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
striving to do at this point where I'm like, okay, what can I find
Yeah, because
that's
you're a
mine?
whole human. You're a
Yeah.
mom, but like you're also a whole ass human
Yeah.
all by yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that it's so easy to forget that. And also there's a safety. I loved being someone's wife.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved having that like kind of
Identity.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
identity. It's a definer. And I
Yeah.
loved it. And but once it's gone, it's like, ah, crap. I have to
Yeah.
do so much work. I have to figure out and it has been a year of work. Like I won't lie and say like the idea of main character energy is a very empowering and positive thought, but like healing is not pretty.
No.
It's not linear. And like doing the main character thing is not always doing the fun thing that you want in the moment. It's not always doing what feels good for today. It's thinking about for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um so it's the messy middle is uh, doesn't always get like displayed online, I think in kind of clear terms, but it's so worth it. It's so
Yeah.
worth it because I can go out now, like I can go out and eat by myself at a restaurant. And I had, before the beginning of this year, I had never done that in my life. And when I started doing it, oh, Mary, when I tell you I hated it, like I
Yeah.
hated it.
Yeah.
It
Do
was
you not know what
awkward
to do
and
with your hands and
uncomfortable.
stuff? I would have no idea what to do.
No. And I was like, I was so jokey with all the wait staff, like to an annoying point where I was like, I guess you're my best friend because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And now it's just me and myself, and like that's fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm okay with myself now.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it takes a little while. I think it's
Of
one of
course it
those
does.
things that like
Yeah. All
you
of it. I
gotta
mean, this all
yeah.
sounds like positive stuff, and it is because it
Yeah.
it's just it takes time, and you take these little things, and and you fall back again, and then you got to keep going. And I
Yep.
think it's just a give and take type of. It's an ebb and
Oh
flow.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. As
but
is life, it turns out. It turns out that like what I thought life was when I was 8, like where I'm like, yeah, it's so clear cut and there's such a path.
I know.
It's
No.
not.
No, God, no. As I'm
But I
like
think that's
calling my mom
okay.
yesterday crying, I'm like, "Oh, I hate being an adult." I'm like, "I'm done."
First time I like paid like, getting my health insurance, my dental insurance, and I was like, they have the audacity to separate dental
Mhm.
insurance from your health insurance?
Mhm.
That's bonkers. That's
I
not fair
know.
as an adult.
I know.
No.
I know.
But we're doing
That's what
it.
I dealt with this stupid dishwasher yesterday. Lowe's. Lowe's, if you're listening, if anyone here works for Lowe's, go fuck yourself. I hate you so much. You just fucking pissed me off. We got a dishwasher. It broke. We got it 2.5 years ago. It broke. I had some, sorry, I'm going on this spiel because now I'd opened up the floodgates of this. It broke. I called Lowe's. They offered to send a repairman out. They said like on Tuesday they'd come out, then it pushed to Friday. This guy came out wearing like a dress shirt and jeans and a little screwdriver kit.
Cute.
That was like totally like third party. He didn't even drive like a repair van. Like he drove a BMW to our house. It was like the most random thing. And he comes in, he takes a look at the dishwasher, which he didn't know how to even get out. He takes a look. He says it's
Perfect.
irreparable. He puts it back in. He says, I'll let Lowe's know. I get a notification from Lowe's yesterday saying that it's irreparable. We already knew this, but it's unable to be covered due to infestation. What does that mean?
What
So I
does
call
that
them,
mean?
and they said that the guy said that he found a mouse dropping. So now they're classifying it as an infestation problem, and that the mouse that left this dropping, which for all I know could have been there for forever, they aren't able to cover
That
the
is
repair
so
of it.
lame.
It's such bullshit. I freaked out. I was like
That's
so mad,
so
and I'm not
annoying.
like that. So when the guy was on the phone relaying all this information to me, I was like, I I took everything out of my body to not curse up a storm, but I was like, I'm gonna have to hang up on you because I am about to lose my shit, and I know it's not you, so I'm gonna just go. So and he was
So
like, I
I'm gonna go.
appreciate that. And
Yep.
I'm like, you're welcome. Ugh.
Okay, but that's not fair.
No. You know what? In moments like that, if we're talking about main character energy, though, that's just I like thinking about, I really do. I do like to think of my life as a story. So it's just that it's
Hmm.
like those added details where if you pretend like someone was reading your life, reading
It's a
a
plot
Kindle,
twist,
it's just
right?
a plot
It's like
twist. It's
a
just a little extra
yeah,
spice to be like, oh, this sucks for the character.
little side character role over there with the yeah, it's all part of the
It's
story.
all part of the
Yeah.
storyline, makes it exciting.
That's what I think.
Yeah, no, but
That sucks. I'm sorry about that.
no, it's fine. But, as we go on. So
Yeah.
that's all a part of
Yeah.
it. So, no, well, I have loved this conversation because this is for everyone listening. Please go follow Emma. Again, you don't have to be a divorcee. You don't have to be anything. Like, just go watch because, like I said, this is there's just I don't know. I love your content. It's inspiring and eye opening and
Yeah.
like affirming, but also real. It's not like I don't feel like you're sugarcoating any of
No.
this. You just get on and share everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
what do
so
you what
glad. Thanks for saying that.
yeah, no problem. What are you doing for work now? Because I know you're doing social media stuff, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing social. So I'm a social media manager and content creator for a few different clients.
Nice.
My big client is this program called Vote for Your Daughter, which is
Nice.
an art exhibit, and it's all
Yeah.
about, it's nonpartisan, but it's all about making sure that the rights of women and girls around the country are protected.
Nice.
So I'm just doing social media for that. Um, and yeah, I love it. I mean, I couldn't have guessed that I would be here a year ago. But it's funny the way the world works. I do not always believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do think you can find a reason for everything in retrospect for why things happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I am really, I'm grateful to have the job that I have now, and I
Yeah.
love it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm a big I don't believe in everything happens for a reason.
yeah.
I think
It's too easy,
I
isn't
think
it? That's too
I
easy.
think shit just happens.
I
I
think
think
so
shit just
too.
happens, but there is a solution if you can seek it out
Yeah. You
type
can
of thing.
make anything happen for a reason, I
Yeah.
think. I think that it's all perspective on how you look at it. I mean, I think that the more you are intentional about,
Yeah.
building. I said this the other day on social. Someone was saying, I had said I took myself out on a date randomly, just decided to go on a random date night by
Yeah.
myself. And I went to the bookstore and I got dinner and then I got a massage. It was like the most luxurious day ever. And someone commented and said, I do these things all the time. Like, are we just like calling everything a date? And I was like, no, it's the intentionality behind it. Any
Yeah.
one of us can go to a bookstore because we need to get a book. We can always
Yeah.
just pay to get a massage. We need a massage. But like romanticizing your life a little bit and creating a reason for, why you're going through the things you're going through or giving them a purpose, I think is never a bad thing.
No.
Um,
No. It's
yeah.
self-compassion,
Yeah,
which
right? That's all it is.
yeah, it's
Self-love.
self-compassion,
Yeah.
self-love, which I think all of us could do with a lot more of. I know myself included in that, but
Heck
I think
yeah.
it's just, yeah, being mindful of ourselves because we don't do that enough. So
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to link everything. Actually, before we go, because I know we chatted on everything and I'm going to link her song in here. Kat, forgetting her last name.
Janice. Cat
Janice. Okay.
Janice. Yes. I'm
If you
so
guys,
glad you brought her up.
I'm going to put out this episode on Friday because I don't think I have anything scheduled and I don't feel like recording by myself solo. So I'm going to just put out this episode on Friday.
Perfect.
I've been procrastinating on recording, but I'm going to put out this. And for everyone listening, Emma knows Kat. If you
Yep.
haven't seen, there's people dancing to her song. She is currently dying of lung cancer?
Yeah, I don't know the specific kind of cancer. I
Yeah,
know it was
it's awful.
her name.
Either way,
Yeah.
she has a 7-year-old son who she's leaving all the royalties of the song to, and everyone's on social media spreading it. And I know
Yeah.
you would, when I'd shared it as a story, you had said that people were like calling it fake and whatnot.
Yeah,
And
so Kat is like the loveliest, most beautiful person. I know her in real life, it's been incredible to see the world like just lift her up and love on her in the way that they have done. But it has been a big journey, obviously,
yeah,
for her. And I can't think of anything better than like shouting out that song and getting everyone you love to dance along to it and thinking of Kat while you do,
yeah,
because she's a beautiful soul.
yeah, awesome. I'll link that in the show notes. So for everyone listening, go do that. But awesome. Well, thank you, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, I'll link and because I'm about to end it, but I'm going to link Emma's stuff. Please go follow her. Please go follow her because she's just great and I enjoy it. So anyway, awesome, guys. Thank you. I'll catch you and see you, Emma. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.